All right, so we're going to get started, folks. Otherwise, we're going to be here till the cows come home and later. First, I want to thank you all for coming out. I mean, it's very encouraging to see this many people come out just to hear us babble and ask questions of us. I want to thank the devs that have come out, all the support people that have come out. We'll see how much fun we have here. And I guess I'm going to start off. No, we already did that. Just last week. Jeez.
Well, we could do like a weekly party.
Well, sorry, I'm not going to DJ for 12 hours straight every week. It just.
Oh, I don't have my kitty. Wimp.
Yeah, I am a wimp. I'm not so much a wimp, but I'm damn lazy. Anyhow, there's a couple things I wanted to bring up here. So I'm going to start with this one. I want to talk about sane settings for Second Life. Most of you are on the Firestorm support groups of one language or another. I'm sure you see lots of questions in there. And a lot of times people get asked, what's your bandwidth set to? What's your draw distance set to? When they're having issues. They get told to turn it down and their problems go away. Have you noticed that, folks? Second Life is not static. It's not like any other game. Okay, it's not like an MMO. It's very data intensive. There's a lot of data going both ways, from the servers to you, well, yeah. Well, it depends, I know. In some aspects, Second Life's what you make of it, but that's beside the point. We're not going to go there. I see both sides of that conversation. The thing is, folks, people don't realize how much of an impact your settings have, not only on your performance, but on the servers in some cases as well. So, lower, in most cases, is generally better. Okay, I want to make this perfectly clear. Lower is generally better. Okay, with one exception. That's your cache size. Okay.
But wait, because I had an email from a user the other day who said that she has this brand new computer with like a 10 gazillion terabyte hard drive and like a billion gigs of RAM and all this stuff, and she turns all the settings, everything on the viewer up to full, and crashes, and she shouldn't.
Well, yeah, I know. I'll tell you. I worked with a guy. Okay, I worked with a gentleman from England here a while back, who built himself basically a supercomputer for Second Life. Okay, seriously. He spent a lot of money. Okay. Over £5,000 he spent on this computer. And he showed me the specs on it. And trust me, he had 5 times the computer he needed for Second Life. Okay? Problem was, he was having an issue when he logged in. Problem wasn't his computer. The problem was his internet. And the amount of data coming in on his login was a problem. He had his draw distance ramped up to like 700 meters. But he was having this problem on login. I got him to drop his draw distance down to like 128 meters and relog. And the problem went away. Because he wasn't trying to pull as much information all at once. And when you log in, that's when you log in and when you TP into a new region, that's when you get hit with the most amount of bandwidth being used. Okay? So keep your bandwidth on the low side. You've seen our wiki page. We recommend maximums of 500 for any sort of wireless. Okay, 1,000 for hardwired DSL, 1,500 for anything faster, again hardwired. Did you note that one word though? Maximums. Okay, I don't run at the maximum. I've got a great internet connection here. I get 25 megs down and 5.5 to 6 up to the Dallas servers when I do a speed test. Okay, doing the calculations, I should be able to run at 1,500. Mine's at 1,000 or less. Okay, so keep your bandwidth down, keep your draw distance down. It doesn't mean it has to stay there. You can put your draw distance up when you need to, but adapt your graphic settings to what you're doing, okay? Please, please. Let's think about some sanity. Okay, I'm going to shut up about that one, unless anybody's got questions about sync settings. Maybe I'll drink tea. Or does anybody else have something to say? I'm pretty sure Letta's got something that she'd say about this one as well. I'm pretty sure Letta has an opinion on this one.
Oh, well, I usually refer to it as being a computer whisperer. In other words, rather than telling your computer what you think it's supposed to do, you should be listening to your computer tell you what it is capable of doing.
Oh, that's good. That's a good analogy.
See, Letta's so much better with words than I am. She really is.
Because, yeah, and also not to be surprised when a certain viewer or even a certain version of the same viewer doesn't work for you the same way as a previous one. They're not identical. You can't force them to be identical. You can't sit there using different viewers and saying, why aren't you working for me the exact same way when you're not the same viewer or not the same version? Yeah, so... Well, to answer Not So, who says, trouble is my computer is a female and keeps changing her mind. Well, that's exactly why it is important to become familiar with how different settings and how different behaviors can be changed. One issue is a lot of people think that there is going to be one specific ideal set of settings that they'll just set and they'll never ever have to change them again. Now, some people with completely awesome computers can do that, but the vast majority of us in the middle, that's not practical, and it's not making the best use of either your computer or your viewer. Most people are going to find that, you know, if you adapt to the settings, or your setting, and change your needs, change the settings according to your needs, then you're going to have a much happier time.
Well said, Letta.
And actually, the more you know about them. Sorry. I decided I wasn't done yet.
Keep going.
It's that the more that you know about the individual settings, the more capable you're going to be about, with doing that, as opposed to looking at them and being like, oh my goodness, I have no idea what you're doing.
So remarkably, considering that I really suck at support, I get a lot of email from people asking me to help them with their computer or with the viewer that they need support. And something I frequently see, and I'm sure support sees it all the time, is that yesterday the viewer was fine, and today now the viewer's not behaving properly. And so there must be something wrong with the viewer. And I think more often than not, the viewer hasn't changed. In fact, we don't have any capability of changing the viewer, remotely. we can't change anything. So if the viewer is working one day and then something's wrong the next day, you should probably consider what has changed on your computer during that time. Have you changed settings? Have you installed some other program? Have you uninstalled a program? Have you made any kind of change at all to your system? Because generally speaking, if it works one day and not the next, it's not the viewer that's changed, it's something else.
Yeah, ton of things like that. And Letta, thank you for the beautiful lead-in, by the way. I know it was unintentional, but it's going to
Segue?
Out beautifully. Yeah, segue. No, not the ones that you write either. That's going to lead into something else I wanted to talk about, and that's our classes. I see a lot of names here that I recognize from our classes. Has anybody here not come out to some of our classes? You're new, Rhea? Okay. Cool. For those of you who have not come out to our classes, I want to highly recommend them. Okay? I'm going to carry on here for a minute. For those of you that have come out to our classes, do us a favor. Keep coming out to our classes and encourage others to come out to our classes. Now, that said, we had an internal discussion the other day, and Letta, sitting back there, had a wonderful thought. Okay? And I sort of stole it. Sort of, kind of. Well, I borrowed it. But originally it was her idea. And that was, what are the most... if you were only going to get somebody to come out to a certain number of classes, what classes are the ones that would have the most impact for you as a user? Well, Momo, there's 4 preferences classes, okay? Well, you see, we're trying to limit this, and we tried to limit it to just like 3 or 4, and now the list is up to 5, you know? And you might be surprised. Okay? Molly, because we're about the viewer, we're not about building. Other people out there, people out there, like Builders Brewery have building classes. NCI has building classes. There's so many out there that do it far better than we would. Do more justice to it than we would, honestly.
We build viewers. Speaking for myself, I can't build anything.
So I think now we've gotten to the point where we have a list of roughly 5 classes that we would recommend as the classes that everyone in Second Life should attend. Okay? At least my list is now up to 5. Okay? The ones that Letta proposed to start with. Are you ready? Are you ready, folks? Preferences 2 being one of the most important classes that we actually give. That's the one that covers your graphic settings and your network and cache tabs, which covers your bandwidth and your cache. A lot of people walk away from that particular class with a new respect for what some of this stuff does and a much better understanding of how to reduce the effects of, one of our other classes, lag. our quick press and lag class, combo class, is a good one because you all know lag's very misunderstood, right? Anybody here not been to the lag class? Who has not made it out to a lag class yet?
I think I grifted a lag class once.
Yeah.
I made it lag.
Coco, as high as possible. As high as you got room for on your hard drive. What other classes? Letta? Oh yeah. The press 2, the lag, requesting bugs and reporting features, or reporting bugs and requesting features is big. Okay, because it explains the JIRA to you and how to request things, and our JIRA is very important. Okay, and the troubleshooting class. Okay, our basic troubleshooting class, which is it's got a little bit of insight into how a couple of things work. Like we do talk a little bit about the statistics bar and what to look for in there as far as when you're troubleshooting. We give you ideas on how to try to figure out where your problems are coming from. Well, requesting features is a lot like requesting bugs, isn't it? Every new feature comes out, there's new bugs. Isn't that the way it works? Or have I got that wrong? Maybe I've got that backwards. I don't know.
So this works kind of like a preview to the blog post that I've been writing on this, and which just needs some illustration. I just need to take some relevant snapshots for it, and it'll be ready. But the way I've organized it is actually to introduce Prefs 2, and then basic troubleshooting, and then reporting bugs, RBRF. And I think of it this way. Prefs 2 is, its theme is prevention is the best cure. Because if you know how best to set your settings, especially in those critical tabs of graphics and network and cache, then you are less likely to have issues to begin with. Second section on basic troubleshooting, I sort of dubbed that home remedies. This is knowing how to fix yourself if the fix is within your power. And even just the process of troubleshooting will let you narrow down the problem so that you can determine whether it's the viewer or not. In most cases, it isn't. And that's actually something you want to be the case, because if the problem is the viewer, then sorry, it's not going to be fixed until the next version at a minimum. Whereas if it's a problem at your end, it can be fixed right away, most likely. All you need to do is figure out what it is. And third comes RBRF, because that's sort of, your last resort is to report it as a bug. But a lot of people don't want to do that for one reason or another. And our class on that will, it explains, it works through the most common reasons that people have to not want to use the JIRA. Like it's, it looks too intimidating. They think it doesn't work. Well, it works a lot better than not reporting it at all, I'll tell you that. Or you're just not familiar with the process. So I sort of called that section by prescription only. And then finally, I actually did tag lag on at the end as a bonus of the big three, because it's a mini class, but it is important.
Yeah, let me jump in here and talk for a moment about reporting bugs, because there are people out there who just absolutely will not, for whatever reason, go to the JIRA and report a genuine bug. Even after, I'll get people who contact me directly, despite the auto reply that says, look, if you're having a problem with Firestorm, ask the support people. They know more about it than I do. I'm just a developer. But people will get with me, and I'll try to help them through it. Half the time I have to go to the support folks and ask them, okay, what's going on with this? But, if it turns out to be a genuine bug, I will ask them to file a JIRA. And some folks just adamantly refuse to do that. I don't get it myself, because I got lots of things going on, not just with Firestorm, but with real life work and everything else. And so if you tell me about a bug, okay, fine, I may notice it, I may take a look at it, but something else will come along and I'll forget about it. If you file the bug on the JIRA, then it doesn't fall through the cracks. We may not actually do anything with it for a while, and that's a common complaint, but it does not get ignored. If you just tell me about it, I'll probably forget about it, and it gets lost, and somebody has to put up with it for another 6 months till somebody else reports it. So, yeah, people need to file bugs. Without that, there's no guarantee it'll get fixed.
How many of you have filed JIRAs in the audience?
And Peg, that's exactly why we have that class, to show them that they can do it, that it's relatively easy. And that's why it's on the list, the big 3 list. Yeah, well, it comes right back down to this for me, okay? People know all sorts of things in Second Life. 90% of that's wrong. 90% of what people in Second Life know is wrong. I mean, how many of you for years thought clearing your cache would make your lag go away? Come on, fess up. My hand's up. I thought it. Because that's what I was told, that people had been, by people who had been around for a while. Thus, we do our classes, and we're trying to give you the best information we can, trying to change the way people in Second Life think and act, and hopefully improve everybody's SL. Tanya, you were going to say something, by the way? Neil, as far as fixing issues, it can fix texture issues, and it can fix inventory-related issues. There are some other minor things that it can fix as well, but for the most part, they're the only 2 things that it really fixes. It's not going to make your lag go away. It's not going to help you teleport.
It's not going to help voice.
Cut down on, it's not going to help voice. Go ahead, Letta, please.
Oh, no, it's okay. You're fine.
No, please.
Well, yeah, no, lag is, cache is, trying to get a cache cleared to fix an issue that is unrelated to cache is like is like taking your car to get an oil change because you think that's a good way to fix your flat tire. I mean, if the cache has nothing to do with what the problem is, then clearing it is going to do what? So learning what the cache is, what it actually does, what's saved in there, and what isn't, is, it makes that whole when to clear cache and when not to clear cache thing make a whole lot more sense. And since Ed didn't mention it, don't clear it for maintenance purposes either. It's not going to do any, it's not going to make any use if you're not having a problem. It's basically the equivalent of, well, okay. So you've got a bag of trash in your kitchen, and then you've got a bag of groceries that you just brought home. If, the stuff in the bag of trash is trash, obviously you're going to need to clear it. It's just stinking up your kitchen. But clearing your cache when there isn't a problem is like taking that big bag of groceries you just brought home and throwing that out instead. I like analogies. I mean, yes, eventually it is possible that something in that bag is going to go bad, but it hasn't yet, so why would you just junk it? It's not a perfect analogy.
I love Lettuce analogies. I love her stories. I steal them. I confess, I steal them. Okay. I think I tell your beer story, Letta, more than you do now. Honestly.
Well, you teach more than I do.
It's quite popular at the classes. People ask for the beer story.
Santi,
likes
that's
beer.
correct. Under normal circumstances, there is no reason to clear cache. Cache should be cleared under the following circumstances only. Number 1, when you're doing a clean install. Number 2, when you have a texture problem that you can't fix any other way. And number 3, when you have an inventory problem that you can't fix any other way. Other than that, it's best just to leave your cache alone.
And texture
Doing good
problem you
work.
can't fix any other way used to involve bake fail, but with server-side appearance, even that doesn't do it anymore.
So, just out of curiosity, any more questions about clearing your cache, folks?
Yes, as Willow says, cache is self-purging. What that means is that some folks in the past, and probably still the present, have made the assumption that if you let your cache fill up, then it gets to a point where you're just storing useless stuff in there, and for that reason you should be clearing it because you can't cache the stuff that's important right now. That's incorrect because when your cache does fill up, then when you come in contact with a new texture or something else that needs to be cached, it will cache it and it will purge whatever is the last thing in there that has not been used, that has not been needed to be accessed. So a full cache is a happy cache.
Molly, almost any issue, unless you know what the issue actually is. You know that the issue is, okay, for example, you've logged in and you know that you have to change this setting in order for that to work. You log in, something strange happens, relog, see if it goes away. Relog on a different region. A relog fixes so many things.
Hey, Ed.
Yes, sweet.
Every so often I've been getting this error when I log in about that voice has been totally disconnected from all areas. Is that normal?
That depends on whether the voice servers are having maintenance or they're broken at the moment, which has happened, 3 times in the past 2 weeks, folks? I think they've been either doing maintenance or down 3 times in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, because I've got my bandwidths are good because they're for the broadband. I keep it right around 1100. But other than that, I get that error. But if I relog, it goes away, and I get my voice back.
Oh, in that case, it's just don't worry about it. That's just a Vivox error. Okay.
Okay.
Voice has very little to do with the viewer itself. Really,
Okay.
really very little.
And lots of moving.
Okay. So y'all get the idea. We want people to come out to our classes and get your friends, tell your enemies. Just get them all. Bring as many people out to our classes as you can, folks. Okay? Not simply. You can adjust your input at your end, your output at your end, your mic volume. both on your computer and in the viewer. Okay? And you can adjust other people's volumes to a degree in the active speakers. That's about it. Normalizing it? No. Not going to happen. Not unless Vivox does something.
We were actually, wasn't it? We were working on a way, and actually I think it's been done by another viewer. I can't remember for sure, but I think what Natsu is talking about is the fall off. Depending on if you have it set at your avatar position or your camera position. And there was some efforts made to normalize that. So that's right. That's what you're talking about. So there was some efforts made by us, but also some other third-party viewer projects have made efforts to make it possible to normalize that sound so everybody, so that you don't get that fall off when you move your camera around, for example. And there's a lot of good use cases for that, like, for example, classes. When you're in a classroom environment and you have different people speaking, depending on your position to that speaker will alter, the volume of it. And we looked into making it so that you could have voice be the same volume within, say, 40 meters or, say, 50 meters. You can't really do it region-wide because then it's going to affect people on other regions and whatnot. I really can't remember what the outcome was that. Cinder, might you remember that? I can't remember if it was through Vivox or Mumble, which is frequently used on OpenSim. Mumble is an open source application for transmitting voice. It's like an alternative to Vivox. But anyway, I'm rambling. There were efforts made, and I don't think there were any successes.
Okay, so soft, that's 4 classes. The other one that I would actually, my personal one, my number 5, would be the introduction to Firestorm in the wiki. Which is perfect timing for that question because it leads into something that I did want to talk about. And that's how to get help. You all know we've got a wiki, right? How many of you actually use it on a regular basis?
I do.
I can tell you right now, everybody on the support team is going to say, I do. Okay? We use it as a resource, folks. Okay? Truth
Most
of
of
the
the
matter.
time when I ask questions of the support team, they send me the...
Yep. Tanya gets a wiki link. Here you go, Tanya. People complain all the time. Why'd you send me to a wiki link? Why'd you send me to that? Why couldn't you just explain it? Have you looked at some of those pages, folks?
It's explained on the wiki.
I tell people that the wiki contains the distilled wisdom of all of the support team all at once in one spot. So we don't have to scratch our heads, scour our brains, and try to remember, oh, wait a minute, yeah, there's one other bit.
Yeah. The thing is, Lacey, they'll read it in chat. Okay. And I understand that. Okay. I understand people don't like to read. Okay. I get that. Okay. But people complain about that. However, that's not the big thing that I wanted to talk about here. Y'all watch the support group, right? So, how many times have you seen this scenario? User X says, hi. User Y says, hello. User X says, is there anybody here? User Y says, no, we all left. User X comes back with, I have a problem. User Y says, we've all got problems. Now you want us to deal with yours? User X finally says, I have a problem with voice. You still don't know what the problem is. Okay? You've gone on for 4 minutes with chat lag, maybe longer, and you still haven't found out what the problem is. Sorry, I'm ranting, and my voice was going up. Tanya's going to get her claws out, and I'll be in trouble. I want to encourage people as much as possible, while being polite, okay, to, maybe I should shuffle over a little bit out of the way. I would like to encourage people politely to try to put everything in one simple little sentence. If you want help, folks, and you're asking in the group, try to get it all in one short little paragraph. Hi, I'm having this problem. When I try to TP, when I get there, part of my hair is missing, or half my hair is missing, or whatever. And try to get it in as short, concise, yet clear sentence as you can. But I would not just want to talk about getting help in the group. I also want to talk about our JIRA, okay? We have people who file JIRAs. We give them suggestions. They never let us know that whether it's helped or not. Or we ask for more information and we never hear back. So if you file a JIRA, okay, please respond to it. Keep up with it. And lastly, come out to some of our classes. You all know we have open Q&A sessions after our classes, right? I'm pretty sure you all know that. Those of you that have been out to the classes have been out, you've seen us deal with support issues after the class. So, encourage these people to come out to the classes, to use you get the idea? I'm going to shut up now because I'm starting to not make sense and my mouth is drying out. Maybe Letta can explain it better.
I can share the link to the blog post that I wrote a while back on when people show up in the group and say nothing but hi.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that then. I'm actually going to have to leave very soon. I have something I need to be at 9.
Okay. Well, Letta, for anybody here that doesn't know, this Letta Pornier lady over here, she rocks. Okay. Without her help, half these classes wouldn't go off. She does so much work behind the scenes that you people don't see. And yeah. She talks so much better.
Not so makes a good point, actually, because, yeah, the first time you're in a group, you don't always know exactly how things work in that group. However, if you've been on the internet for more than, say, a couple of years, you pick up on the fact that it usually behooves you to lurk in a new context before you start to participate. Now, I know that's difficult when the context is a help group, which you only joined because, well, you need help. But sometimes we get the hi thing from people who have asked for help in there before, and hopefully at least some people are going to be lurking for, at least a little while before they ask their questions in there. So, yes, you're correct. but there's a point where, you know, you got to get rid of the introductory stuff and just get to your point. And you know, trust us, someone will probably come to your aid.
So how many of you have asked for help in the support group and not gotten a response?
Well, actually, I'd like to respond to this comment.
Oh, yeah.
Just as annoying as the constant highs is the multiple answers by the staff. Now, yeah, this one I need to respond to, because we're actually instructed and instruct the support staff to, you know, it's better to have 4 people answering the same thing at once than for nobody to answer it at all. That's something that Ed has been teaching us from the very moment we land on the team. It's, you know, it may be annoying on some level, but it's at least productive in a respect. Now, there are the kind of multiple answers where sometimes you'll see one person getting answers to, you know, from like half a dozen people, and then another person whose answer or whose question seems to have gone unnoticed. And of course, that's not a good thing. And of course, that's something that we all need to be more aware of when it does happen. There are certain questions that we all enjoy answering, such as that one about how often you want to clear cache. You know, we all want to be, you know, everyone has an answer for that one. And certainly there's the potential to distract from other questions going on at that point in time, but that is something for us to be aware of. It's not something we do on purpose. And yeah, but you know, if the complaint is, well, one person asks and 5 people answer, that's not something we're going to be concerned about.
I just want to add to that, okay, about the multiple answers to the same question. You know what our support team actually is, right? We're a Department of Redundancy department. Okay. That's what we do. We repeat ourselves all the time, and in some cases, you know, let it told you the truth. I've told people right from day one, I'd rather see 6 of you respond to the same question than nobody.
And also, I'll poke my nose in here and point out that not everybody on staff in the support group is support. I will occasionally lurk in the support group and see if I can answer some questions, not only to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the user community, but also, you know, to help out. But, you know, I have a different perspective on some things, and that turns out to be useful sometimes. But by the same token, I don't know what question's likely to get answered 6 times. So if I do know the answer on those rare occasions, I'll go ahead and toss it out.
Actually, I've seen a couple of occasions where multiple answers went out, where I had typed in an answer as well. Mine never went through. There were 3 answers to the initial question. By the time mine actually went through, the same question had been asked again. So when mine finally did go through, it looked like it was totally separate because, yeah, you know. Okay, yes, that's a good point. Sweet, thank you. You want to take that one, Letta?
Sure. Yeah,
Good.
we love it when non-support helps. It gives us less work to do. No, we actually that's we like it when non-support helps because well, that's how all of us ended up here ourselves, by helping out in the group. And you know, sometimes folks fill in the gaps. You should never feel concerned about doing it if there's usually someone at least half paying attention to the group, even if they're not actively answering questions. If I'm online, I almost always have the group open, even though I'm probably active in it only about 5% of the time. But I will sort of keep an eye on what's going on, and if I see somebody answer wrongly, I will jump in. And I'm sure everybody else on the team will do the same thing. So as long as you're answering correctly, we're just going to let you go ahead and be helpful because you're awesome.
Yeah. For the record, you're about to learn something personal about Ed. Are you ready? One question I absolutely hate to see in the group is there a mod here I can talk to? Or I've got
even
a question.
can
Is
a
there
mod
a mod
IM me?
around? Yeah.
Now, if the question is sensitive in nature, like your private bits went missing or something, then, asking for somebody to IM you directly may be appropriate. But most of the time, believe me, we've been asked for help for that more often than you might expect. Yeah, my prim bits, I can't find them. No, but in most cases, it's going to be a lot more productive to ask the question in the chat itself because we all have different specialties. We all have things that we are stronger to answer than others, and we're not going to we're going to be a little bit tentative about helping, initiating an IM when we have no idea what the question is going to be. So just ask it in the main group first, and you cast a much broader net that way. You'll be more likely to be helped by the person who is best to help you. And on that note, I think it's time for me to go.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Letta, thank you, hon. I wish you could stay longer so I could just let you talk instead of me, but that's okay.
Don't schedule this for my trivia days then.
Damn. We'll have to reschedule next one. I'll talk to you about your schedule later. But yeah, I could tell you a story about one particular user that we helped in the past, but no, I can't. We're on a general region. I'd have to ban my. Hey, Jess, if I do that and ban myself, will I get fired then?
No.
Has anybody got a good way for me to get fired?
It's a funny thing
if you do, IM me, let me know.
If I had a nickel for every person on this team who has tried to get fired.
Fatashi, that won't work. She knows where I live in real life. She just hurt me. Okay, she wouldn't fire me. She just hurt me.
My tail doubles as a whip.
Yeah, they're both Canadians, can't you tell? It happens that they live not all that far from each other.
Better than that, we've actually met. We actually have a picture of us standing together. So, that's basically what I wanted to talk about, folks. So, I guess you got questions, folks?
Wait a minute, Ed, you just said about, not a boat. You trying to hide or something?
No, it's hanging around with all you Yanks. It's, you pick up the accent of whoever you've been talking to recently, I once had an Italian friend who thought I was making fun of them because I'd been around them for about a week straight. We were out on a job site, so I'd been around them for about a week. And I started to have a bit of an Italian accent, I was thrown to, and he thought I was making fun of him. So, yeah, questions, folks. You got questions? Here's your chance.
Actually, I
Ask them.
had
We've got some devs.
I had a topic. I've been like really quiet because, for a change, I'm not running this show. I want to talk a little bit about viewer wars, and so in the coming weeks, I'm going to be doing more talking about viewer wars and how much I wish they would end. So, for example, Firestorm is better than Singularity. Exodus is better than Firestorm. My viewer is better than your viewer. Can we stop doing that, please? Because no viewer is any better than any other viewer. And because, I mean, I can't say Firestorm is better than any other viewer. For me, Firestorm is better than any other viewer. For me. But that's because Firestorm provides the needs that I like, and I prefer this viewer. And the fact that I prefer this viewer makes it my opinion, and makes it subjective to my opinion, and therefore, Firestorm can't be better than any other viewer for anybody else. I can't say that Singularity is better for you than Firestorm will be. You have to try it. And so, early on when we started this project, we made some efforts to build some cooperation between the third-party viewers, because really, all the third-party viewers are developing for the same goal, I think, which is to improve the user experience. And I have to say Linen Lab is as well. And so, in the same way that we've tried very hard to work with Linen Lab, and we've made some improvements, and we've made some headway there, and materials that's coming out, that actually is out, will be out in Firestorm soon, is an example of collaborating, between third-party viewers and Linen Lab, and is an example of how much more you can accomplish when you cooperate. But so early on, we tried forming a mailing list with the other third-party viewers, and we made some efforts to try to bring us together. We may disagree with our way of doing things. And by we, I mean the third-party viewers may disagree with each other. We may disagree with, we may have differing opinions. We may disagree with how to improve the user experience. We all have our own opinions on how best to do that. Our viewers all have different niches. Firestorm is basically a whole lot of everything. Singularity's niche is for, viewer one style interface and design. Catsnip viewer, for example, is kind of caters to the Linden viewer user who wants a little bit more, but not a whole lot. Exodus's niche is combat. So we all have our own niches, and that's good because that provides options for everybody, because there may be some people who, for example, like to do combat in Second Life, and in that case, Exodus might be the best viewer for them. There are certainly a lot of people who prefer the V1 interface, and Singularity might be the viewer for them. But who would I be to tell somebody that this viewer is better than that viewer? And what that does is it creates an atmosphere of competition amongst the users, which then bleeds into the developers and the viewer projects themselves, because we see our users, really being patriotic about our viewer, and that makes us feel good. I can't lie. It makes us think we must be doing something right. But it also breeds an atmosphere of, like I say, competition amongst the third-party viewers. So initially we started trying to build this cooperation between the viewers, and it didn't go very well as far as the third-party viewer cooperation is concerned. And so, in hindsight, I'm thinking maybe, we started on the wrong end of things. Maybe where we need to start is from the user end of things. We need to start with you guys. We need to eliminate the whole competition, this viewer is better than the other viewer deal amongst the users first, and then maybe that atmosphere will bleed into the viewer project developers themselves. So in the next coming weeks, I'll be posting a blog post talking a little bit about what I've just said, and making some efforts to reestablish cooperation amongst third-party viewers. Singularity, specifically Latif and I have been talking, and Cinder and been talking. We had this Open Sim conference last weekend, and we were talking about how much more we could accomplish for you, the users, how much more we could accomplish if we cooperated a little bit better. But it's difficult to cooperate when we have our users, our own users, saying this viewer is better than that viewer. Because, like I say, it breeds competition. So, let's try to, for you guys, all you guys in the audience, if you see somebody saying, this viewer is better than that viewer, I would like for you, don't be confrontational, because that's what we're trying to avoid, but just maybe point out that it's subjective, what viewer is better than somebody else's. It's much better to suggest, why don't you try this viewer and that viewer and that viewer? They're all up on the third-party viewer directory. Give them a try, and then you can decide which one you like, which one is best for you. So, yeah, that's my rant. Okay, I'm done.
I just want to add to that. Just did make the point that we've been doing this for quite some time. We started talking about this amongst ourselves, about cooperation between the different third-party viewer developers back when we first started the project over 3 years ago. That's how long we have been working at this. Okay. Even before then, I believe back in the Emerald days, there was some talk about it, but
it never got anywhere because there is still this atmosphere. Let's use another example. How many of you remember when Linen Lab killed viewer tags? Remember, we used to be able to have our viewer name up above our. Some of you may be too young to remember that. Actually, I don't think it's that long ago, was it? Anyway, Linen Lab killed that, and one of their reasons for killing that. Was it 2.5 years ago? It's been that long?
Close to it. No. It's at least 2 years, Jeff.
That's amazing. Anyway, one of their logic for killing it was that they had said, Oz had said to me that viewer tags is causing Phoenix users are griefing and trolling users of other viewers, including the Linen viewer, and causing drama. And I called BS on it. I didn't believe that. And so I sort of went undercover. I created an alt and started going in the groups. I started going around on the Linden viewer. So, it showed up viewer 2 on my viewer tag. And I actually had people IMing me out of nowhere, out of the blue, telling me how stupid I was to be on that viewer and I should be on the Phoenix viewer because it's the best viewer there is. And that made me very sad because, first of all, it demonstrated that, in fact, that kind of thing goes on, and it goes on in the user level of things. So while here we are trying to build cooperation, here I see our users, our own users, in fact, I don't want to point the finger, but Phoenix users, perhaps it's just because there were more Phoenix users than any others, but it seemed that Phoenix users were the worst at being so patriotic about the viewer, and we appreciate patriotism. I appreciate that you love the viewer, because that tells me that we're doing something right. But don't enforce that view on people. You can spread your opinion. Be sure that when you say Firestorm is the best viewer for me, that you say it's the best viewer for me, and that's my opinion. And it's not necessarily the best for you.
Okay, little bit of shameless self-promotion for me. How many of you have checked out my blog post, Ed Merriman's Rants on WordPress? I recently did a post. Letta and I both did one, actually.
Do you have the links for those?
They're actually available off our webpage, Jess. You put them up there.
That's right.
But, and I believe there's Sunset through my note. I'm sure somebody will throw Lettuce out as well, hopefully. Firestorm's not for everybody. It really isn't. No single viewer is for everybody. We've all got our own taste. Some people prefer simple. Some people prefer, the V1 interface. Some people prefer, we've all got different tastes. We all use the viewer differently in Second Life. Come on, folks. Let's be more cooperative. If we all cooperate with each other, we can all make Second Life a much more pleasant place for us all. So why fight about it?
Let me throw in my 2 cents on this one too, because I've made comments about viewer development publicly. Part of the disagreement that we have as a team with some of the other viewers is about how they go about developing the viewer. That's very much under the covers, though. That has nothing to do with how good the viewer is for the user, how good a user experience it provides, how well it might fit a particular user's needs. As far, I've been accused of wishing other viewers would go away, and that's not so. As far as I'm concerned, if Singularity does the job for you better than Firestorm, use it, have fun. Go forth and sin no more. My blessings. It's great. There's lots of choices out there, and choices are good. I mean, hell, Firestorm is about 2/3 of all. 2/3 of Firestorm is about choices. Well, so choices in viewers is good too. I may disagree with their development methodology, but I certainly don't want them to dry up and blow away. They make people happy. Fine. The more people that are happy about that kind of thing, the more happy users there are on Second Life, and the more users that I'm likely to run into that share interests and I can enjoy being on Second Life with. There's some selfishness there. I want everybody to be happy. And if using a different viewer makes them happy, so.
Yeah. And from a support perspective, folks, when we say in the group, somebody comes, you've all seen it, somebody comes in, can somebody tell me how to do this on Singularity? Well, if it's something that's standard, I'll answer them. Okay, but if they're asking about a specific preference in Singularity that I know nothing about, because I don't use it, okay, I've logged in on Singularity a couple times. I've logged in on most of the third-party viewers at least once, but I don't know them. Okay, I can't help with them, but that doesn't mean that I think they're a bad viewer. Okay, because they're not. If they were that bad, nobody would use them. And I do mean nobody.
I think we've all, at some point or another, bashed another viewer. And I'm sure I'm guilty of it too. Although I make a conscious effort not to. I've been accused of not specifically naming viewers in blog posts. And what I'll often do instead is I'll just say, you can try, there's a list of third-party viewers on the Linden Lab third-party viewer list. And I've been bashed for not specifically saying, why don't you try Singularity, or why don't you try Exodus, or why don't you try this or that viewer? And the reason I won't specifically name them in a blog post is because I'm responsible for this project. I'm responsible for this viewer. I can't be responsible for the others. It doesn't mean that I don't trust them. It doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means that I can't, I don't want to promote them as, safe viewers. Call it the whole Emerald thing. I'm paranoid. But there are viewers on the third-party viewer directory. I'll say in a chat, or where we are right now, I'll say, why don't you try Singularity? We get people, can you make a light version of Firestorm? Firestorm Light. No. Because that's the total opposite of what our objective is with Firestorm. And what would be Firestorm Lite for you would be different for Firestorm Lite for somebody else. Because if we make Firestorm Lite, it has just the options that you want, just the features that you use. But the person next to you has a completely different list of features that they want. So we can't really do, Firestorm Lite. But there are other viewers that are light. We get people asking, complaining about our vintage Phoenix skin in Firestorm isn't quite the same as V1. Well, try Singularity. Try Cool VL Viewer. They have the V1 interface, as close as it can possibly be to a V1 interface. Give them a try. It might be better for you.
Okay,
I just want to foster. I'm just going to end this quick and then go to questions. I just want to start fostering an atmosphere within our users of not competing with other users in regards to what viewer they use.
Okay, a couple things that just got said. Not so. Not so said the other day. Someone asked a question in the chat. And they were on a mobile device. The staff got their nose out of joint, and the answer they got was specifically, "Hey, if you're on a mobile, you're not on Firestorm, and this is Firestorm Help Group." Okay, 2 comments about that. Okay, one is, how the hell am I going to help you on a viewer that I don't know? Okay. 2 is, we are. And how many times have you seen it where questions get missed because somebody's talking about this or that or the other thing? Yeah, I know. The third point here, not so, is this. How many of you think you'd like to be on the support team?
Not it.
Okay. I get lots of people who say, "I'd like to be on the support team." Okay. Yeah, perhaps we could, Tanya. The thing is, though, it's really hard to be gentle when you have just answered the same question 65 times in the past hour and a half. Voice was down. You remember when voice was down? How many times did you see? Is anybody else having a problem with voice? How many times did you see that? Hundreds and hundreds of times in the space of an hour or 2. So do you understand the frustration level that we get? Okay. And
that's not to
start getting frustrated. No,
it's not to excuse the frustration.
It's not. I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm using it as, this is why it happens. It's the fact. We all get frustrated on the support team. We do. So that's why it happens. I'm not saying it's right. Yep. But you see, that's what it does happen. Quite frankly, how many of you seen it where people get asking questions in the group and there's no answers? Lots of times. Happens all the time. Okay? Here you go. Here's the honest to God brutal truth. I'm going to tell you exactly what I tell the support staff. We have weekly support meetings, and I say this every week. Every week. I'm sure that some of the support staff are tired of me saying it, but I'm going to continue to say it every week. If you start to get frustrated, as soon as you see yourself snapping at users or anything like that, walk away. Walk away, take a break. You're not in the right frame of mind anymore. If you continue to answer when you're frustrated, you're just going to get more frustrated. You're going to wind up burning out, and we're going to lose you. And sorry, folks, we spend a lot of time picking these people to do support. We don't pick people up at the drop of a hat. We've watched people for 6 months before we asked them onto the support team. Okay? There are very valid reasons for everyone that's on our support team being there. beyond the things that they have in common as well. But that's beside the point. So, however, the thing is, you get frustrated, you just want to respond. You need to get it out, right? And that happens. And, generally after you see a blow up like that, you're going to notice that there's a lot fewer support staff hanging around, right? There was one other one that came up that I wanted to mention. Oh, the emerald thing. Oh, Annie actually sort of did that one, yeah, and that got mentioned. Yeah, old story. Do you know how many people on our team were actually on Emerald, by the way? On the Emerald team? Actually not. No. You're
Quite
wrong,
the
Molly.
opposite.
Less than a dozen people, that's developers and support, were involved with Emerald at all.
And I think there are, 2, 3 developers? Jess and I are the only 2 members of the Firestorm team who were members of the Emerald team when it imploded. And I had been a member of the Emerald team for exactly 4 days.
Okay. Quite frankly, can I out a couple people here, Tanya, Jess? Can I out a couple people? Okay.
Sure.
All right. I'll be blunt about this. When the crap went down with Emerald, 3 people up on this stage were very unhappy about what was going down. And a certain person with ears and a tail had mentioned that they were considering doing a fork because they felt bad for all the users that were going to be out of a viewer when Emerald got banned. Okay? 2 other people on this stage encouraged Jess to do this, and all 3 of us...
And you wonder why I won't fire you.
Yeah.
Encourage, the proper verb to use is arm twist.
Well, yeah, we did. Okay. To be quite blunt with you, Jess and I or Tanya and I were twisting Jess's arm and tail and various other parts of her anatomy. No, I can't say that here, can I? To actually start the team up. Okay. And it was actually just over 48 hours of actual hard work by our initial developers before we were actually ready to release Phoenix. But that was just a straight fork from Emerald with ripping out a bunch of stuff, making sure everything was clean.
So we still, unfortunately, live with that stigma. Despite the fact that there's actually very few of us who were... Because, in fact, when Emerald started to explode, and Great Fox, I want to touch on what you were saying there. Just let me get through this first. There were... when things started to explode, a lot of the Emerald developers were gradually saying, you know what, F this, I'm out of here. And they're gone. And they left. But when things blew up, they were still considered to have been on the team and have been part of it. There were very few of us who did remain on the team in hopes that we could save things. I kind of hoped that I could, save the viewer despite everything that was going on. And when that became clear, I got locked out of everything, and it became clear that the only way we were going to be able to save the viewer was to create a fork of the viewer. And we decided to create Phoenix. And the reason for that was because I felt it was absolutely devastating that a couple arseholes could ruin it for a lot of people. There was going to be a lot of people who didn't really have a decent alternative aside from the Linden Viewer 2.0 to switch to at that time. And so I decided we would fork and create a new viewer. We would call it Phoenix, and then I started thinking about, oh my gosh, it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work. You know what? I'm not so sure now that I want to take this on. And then Tanya and Ed basically egged me. Oh no, you can do it. You'll be fine. We can do it. You have to do it for the users, and so we did. and here we are now. And a lot of the people that I pulled into this team were people who left Emerald before the final blow up, and it's because they didn't want their names tarnished. None of us did. Very few of us knew anything about what was going on. And
in fact, I had joined the Emerald team after the initial revelations, after the DDoS, after the steganographic user information hiding, both in the belief that with all the bad stuff out, nobody would try anything, and Linden Lab had set forth conditions that would restore everybody's trust in the team, and frankly, Fox shot it in the head. Everybody else was going to do what the lab insisted on. Fox said, "No, I'm not leaving." And I don't know if many of you are familiar with the song from Megahertz called Kopfschuss, but the one of the lines from the chorus, "Die Phoenix aus der Asche werde ich auferstehen," and I know my German pronunciation sucks. Don't bother me about it. But that line, like Phoenix from the ashes, we will rise again, in the original German, was the topic of the developer chat for months. So, I knew when it came time to do this that we were going to have to fight. We were going to have to, we're going to have to fork Emerald into a new viewer. We were going to have to do a lot of work to regain users' trust. And for quite a long while, there were people that wouldn't have anything to do with us, not because of anything we did, but because we had been tainted by association with Emerald. That annoyed me. I'm happy to say that I think the last vestiges of that have pretty much disappeared. We've done a lot of work. We've been very transparent, specifically to help users regain their trust in the team and in what we can.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to answer Peter's question, if that's okay.
Yeah. I want to get back to Great Fox now.
Okay. Peter, basically it was this. Phoenix was based on the V1 code. Viewer 2 was out at the time. Our developers realized at the time that we would have to move to the V2 code base in order to be able to keep up with things coming from Second Life, from Linden Lab, okay? And why two names? Well, because we still had the Phoenix viewer out when we brought out our V2 one, which is Firestorm. And that's why the name change as well. Now I'll shut up and let Jess go back.
So the Phoenix breathes fires. The idea was that from the ashes came the Phoenix, and from the Phoenix came the Firestorm. And so that was the kind of transition in viewer names. Okay, different topic. Going back to a previous topic, was Great Fox had said that somewhere in here we were talking about support chat, and that sometimes there'll be like 4 or 5 support people online in the support chat, and somebody's asking questions and nobody's answering the questions. So just because they're there doesn't mean that they're paying attention. They could be doing other things. They could be, and I think most often are actually in IMs. No, I'm not shooting down your subject, Great Fox. In fact, I'm glad that you brought it up. Yeah, it's good that you brought it up, because it does happen. I've seen myself where I'll be, quite often I'm in chat. When I log in, ding, 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 I get all these windows open up, and they're all support chat windows mostly. I get a lot of IM windows from users as well. But I get I get the Spanish group pops up, I get the English support group, I get the French support group, I get all these different support groups, and those will show me that I'm in the group. I can assure you, I do not speak Russian, I do not speak German. I'm not able to pay attention to what those are, and quite often I'll try to close them when I can, but most of the time I've got like a billion other IMs as well, so I work through them in progression. And so it'll show me that I'm in those groups, but I'm really not able to watch those groups. And that happens with support people as well, is they'll log in, and maybe they have, Letta, for example, does trivia things, kind of like we do classes, she does trivia things. That group may be open, and she may show that she's in it, but it doesn't mean that she's watching it. There's nothing that says, there's no rule that we have that says if you're online you have to provide support. In fact, quite the opposite. We tell our support people, if you don't feel like doing support, don't do support. If you're not in the right frame of mind, don't do it, especially if you're not in the right frame of mind. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to know if we're in the right frame of mind. Sometimes support people will be snappy. I am very guilty of having been snappy to people. And I don't even realize it until after I've done it. And then I realize, oh, wow, I shouldn't have said that. That was wrong. And quite often I am that person and apologize to them. And then I will just either close that chat or just not pay attention to it, or I will log out. I'll put a stop to myself. But it's difficult to realize that you've been snappy until after you've been snappy. And so that happens as well. But as far as having people in the support people in the chat but not responding, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing support actively. It doesn't mean that they're intentionally ignoring the question. There are also situations where, and this has happened with me, I'll be in the chat and somebody will ask a question and I don't know the answer. I just don't know the answer, and I'll try to find the answer. I just don't know the answer, and so what I'll often do is hope that somebody else answers it. And sometimes it doesn't get answered. And if it doesn't get answered on this situation, it means that nobody in the support chat knows the answer. And so we can't answer it. It's not that we're ignoring you. We don't pretend to have all the answers to everything. And sometimes questions come up which are just completely no idea. Haven't got even the slightest clue, don't even know where to begin on how to answer that, or even how to diagnose or troubleshoot that. And so it's not that, it's not that we're ignoring people. Sometimes we just don't know.
I have a confession to make.
You've done this too.
No, I have a bigger confession to make. Okay? You ready for my confession, folks? I sometimes ignore people.
Shame on you.
IMs. I get IMs coming out my wazoo. Okay, I do. The majority of the groups that I'm in are either official Firestorm groups or related to them in some way, like the Second Life beta group. Okay, I'm in that. I'm in the viewer group. I'm in a couple other groups that are related to things that we do in the viewer. Okay. Plus I get IMs. I've got like about 20 IM tabs sitting here at the moment. How many of you have actually IM'd me and seen my auto response? Okay. My SL family, okay, who are very dear to me, get my auto response. Okay? Sometimes I don't respond. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But I have to look after me first. Okay? And if I want to take some time to myself, my auto response on, you're going to get an auto response that says, please check on the wiki, and because I may not be able to get back to you. Okay? We all need our own time. And I'm bluntly honest about this. I will ignore IMs when I need to. Period. Sorry. It's one of the advantages of not being paid. Okay? I don't have to do this. Okay? Some people
So
might
yeah,
not like that, but
if this was a paying team, if I was the boss and I had a payroll, and I saw support people in the support chat, and I saw questions going unanswered, I would put the hammer down. I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? You're in support. You should be providing support. You're working right now. And I could do that because these are the people who are being paid at that moment by the hour to provide support and aren't doing it. But they're not being paid by the hour to provide support. They've been, invited to be an official part of the team to provide support when they can and when it's convenient for them, when they have time to volunteer. And that goes for the developers, that goes for Tanya and Cinder and Ed and even myself and Nikki and Zri and Keta and everybody on the team. We do it when we can. Unfortunately, we don't get paid for it, so we do have to work in real life. Some of us make a living in Second Life. I don't personally, but some do. Some of our support people make a living in Second Life, so they may be online making a living. Cinder, for example, has a job in Second Life, and she's online pretty much every night while she's working. And the support chat may be open for her. It doesn't mean she's paying attention to it, and certainly she's not obligated by me or by the team to provide support. We try to provide support as a service towards our goal of improving the user experience. But because I don't pay people, because we can't pay people, I can't insist that people provide support. I want to talk about voice issues. Anybody have questions actually about that first? I don't see. Is anyone typing? I can't. I've got my draw distance down. Okay, so I'm going to go talk about a little bit about voice issues. I believe it was Molly whose the original question came from. So voice issues. A lot of people don't realize that. Right. Who would we address the issues to if you can answer them? First of all, let me explain what voice issues are. Firestorm is the product that we develop, we compile, we issue, we put up on our website to be downloaded, and you download Firestorm. Firestorm comes with another program, actually 2 other programs. Inside of Firestorm, and I don't mean within the viewer, I mean in the package that you install, is another program called slvoice.exe. That is a program all by itself. There's also slplugin.exe. That is a program all by itself. SLVoice and SL Plugin are both Linden programs, which we cannot compile, we cannot edit, we can't change, we can't control, we can't do much with. The way they interact with the viewer is that they kind of link into each other. So when you launch Firestorm, you're also launching SL Voice, and you're also launching SL Plugin. SL Plugin is used for media, and media on a prim, like if you're looking at it, the internal browser in the viewer. SL Plugin is used to display the login screen, for example, profiles for web stuff, right? Thank you. And basically, when you right-click on somebody's name and click profile, it's linking to, the viewer is then communicating with SL Plugin saying, please display this information, and then SL Plugin looks it up and sends it to the viewer. It's quite a bit similar with voice. Although the settings for SL Voice are displayed in the viewer doesn't actually control SL Voice exactly. It links to it. It sends instructions to the SL Voice application. And so we can't actually fix voice problems. And interestingly, neither can Linden Lab, because SL Voice, although Linden Lab actually can compile it, that's not true. Linden Lab has some things they can do. So if you've got a problem with voice, and you've tried everything on our wiki, you've tried everything you can think of to fix it, then it's, somewhat beyond our control. And what we would have to suggest is try contacting Linden Lab. Hopefully you have a premium account. I don't know if Linden Lab deals with voice issues for non-premium. Do you know, Ed?
Not to the best of my knowledge. No, not unless you log
Okay.
it. Well, they will if you can reproduce it on their viewer.
So that's the next thing is log into their viewer, and from their viewer see if voice will work. If voice doesn't work in their viewer, file a ticket with Linden Lab, because it is Linden Lab's application, not ours. And if we try to fix it and we can't, then we just can't. We can't go any further. The only way to escalate that is to escalate it to Linden Lab.
Uh, 55. Yeah. If you can identify who it is, yeah, I would file an AR against that particular person. Okay. When I've heard of this, I've actually seen it once.
I'm catching up on what was chatted here.
It's where they're glitching their voice so that you can't control them, Jess. They can use voice without showing up on the without being. It's become more prevalent because I believe it's come out in a Griffer viewer or two. Yeah,
Right,
they don't show up at
so
all.
there have been exploits in SL Voice for many, 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 many years. And some of those exploits are, for example, you can listen in on a conversation. Let's say you're the griefer. You can listen in on a conversation without actually being logged into Second Life at all. And you will not show in the speakers list or anything, and you can just listen in and hear everything that the person is saying. You can connect to other people's conversations, and those people won't know that you're there. There are exploits with voice where they can come in and cause all kinds of weird noise and stuff that doesn't show up in the speaker list, so we don't know who it is. You can't mute them. It's completely disruptive and destroys our ability to do anything in voice. There's all kinds of exploits with voice, and unfortunately, Linden Lab can't fix those either, because Vivox is a company in itself who Linden Lab has contracted out, who develops slvoice.exe. So Linden Lab, like when we had that big voice outage for, what was it, a day or so, the voice went out completely. During our anniversary, wasn't it? Anyway,
yeah, I had
Linden Lab set up on status.secondlife, blah, 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 that they had to contact their provider, and that's a fact, because it's not even on their servers. Vivox didn't even go through the Linden servers. It goes through the Vivox servers. And if there's a problem, Linden Lab has to file a ticket, just like you have to file a ticket with them. They just recently updated, in fact, Linden Lab has recently updated a new version of Vivox, and we'll be releasing that with the next Firestorm release as well. It was said that it might address some exploits, but I'm sure there are new ones. There will always be exploits. So oftentimes, and we hate to do it, but oftentimes we'll have a user come to us with a problem, and we will try this and that and the other thing. We'll send you to the wiki page, and then you come back, so you tried everything on the wiki page, and still have the problem, and we'll try other things, and eventually we'll say, can you download and install the Linden viewer and try it on the Linden viewer and tell us if it happens there? And I think oftentimes users will say, what? But I don't care about the Linden viewer. The problem is on Firestorm, and I want it fixed. Well, the fact is that sometimes we need to know if the problem actually is in our own code, or if it belongs or is present in the Linden code. If it's in the Linden code, we need to know this in order to try to find the problem developmentally. So not just support-wise. If it's gone beyond the point where support can't fix it, then we've got to pull in a developer or two to look at it. And for that developer is very helpful for them to know whether this is in Linden code, as in code that we've not touched, or whether it's in Firestorm code in which we have touched. In other words, is it our problem? Did we create the problem, or is this a Linden problem? If it turns out that the problem still exists on the Linden viewer, then we're going to go to the Linden JIRA, and we're going to search to find out if it's been reported on the Linden viewer. And sometimes we'll find it's been reported on the Linden viewer, and Lindens will have a workaround that we didn't know about. And we can come back and say, okay, yeah, this is the problem, but if you do this and this and this, this will fix it for now. And, we may need to wait for Linden Lab to fix it. It may be over our heads. Believe it or not, we don't know everything. And sometimes we can fix it. Cinder's been amazing. We've got quite a few devs who've been amazing at fixing even Linden bugs. But there are some things that are beyond our knowledge or ability. So if you get somebody from support asking you to download and install the Linden viewer and let us know, please just please comply, because we can't fix it otherwise, especially if we can't reproduce the problem. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll see if we can reproduce it. And so, for example, a voice issue, we'll try to reproduce it. Well, voice is working for me. It's not for you. So I can't reproduce it. Therefore, I can't trace the problem. In order for me to find the problem, it's like working on cars, right? If you've got a funny noise in the car and you take it to the mechanic, as Murphy's Law would have it, that noise goes away until the mechanic gives it back to you. But if there's no noise, we can't find it. We don't know where it's coming from. There are exploits in everything. I mean, there really are exploits in everything. You have to use due diligence, but you also have to be reasonable about it. There are exploits with media. Should you never turn on media, never enjoy music in Second Life? Probably not. Should you be due diligent and say, I'm in a region where I'm shopping and I don't need to be listening to media, so I'll turn media off. But I'm, in this case, suddenly I'm at this music venue. Chances are I can turn on media because I want to listen to music. And it's probably safe to turn on the media as long as you're at the area, Media on a prim is probably a little bit more exploitive. And that is in preferences. Where is that? Preferences, sound and media, play media attached to other avatars. That's media on a prim. And
actually, media on a prim will work without that enabled, Jess, if it's just on a prim. Yeah.
That's a shame.
But you have to press play. Just.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the big thing is don't let scripts play your media automatically. Don't automatically play media. Turn it on when you want to, or play streams
and
that
take
you
a look
know
at the
you
URL.
can trust.
Turn on media filter and pay attention to the URL when it tries to connect to something. So just use common sense. Don't be like it's not helping your user experience if you're over paranoid. Digging a hole and building a bomb shelter, and living in a bomb shelter. You're not going to have a very good quality of life down there. But it's just good to keep in mind that exploits happen. They exist. They will always exist in every single thing you do in life, especially on the internet. And the same is true in Second Life and web pages and, you name it. Yeah, I see people taking this raise hand gesture. Is it working for you guys? I was scripting it while I was listening to everything, and I don't know if it actually works. Is it giving it to you, though? Oh, good. I thought of it because often I'll ask people, how many of you have da-da-da-da? And it occurred to me that I've got this animation here that I could give out so people can actually physically raise their hand. Yay, look at me, I'm raising my hand.
You have a question, Jess?
No, I got a cramp in my arm.
Okay.
Okay, so I got to do a little bit more scripting on that. I personally don't have media on by default. If I go to a music venue, I will turn on media. I will not have media playing while I teleport around from region to region to region. But I'm not afraid to turn it on. When I'm in a parcel where I know what the media stream is going to be. I also use media filter and pay close attention to the URLs that are trying to play.
What, you actually listen to my stream too, Jess? That's good.
Sometimes, but I don't know if I should trust you.
Probably not. I keep trying to get fired, right? Well,
okay, questions, more questions?
Yeah,
Did that answer your question, Molly? I mean, sometimes we just can't help. And, you know, the next step above us is the official people, which is Linen Lab. I'll tell you another trick, actually. So, Linen Lab, you know, as we mentioned earlier, we've done a lot of effort to build cooperation and collaboration with Linen Lab, and that has been a two-way street. Linen Lab, Oz specifically, and some other Lindens have made efforts to try to improve that on the Linden side of things, to collaborate and work with third-party viewers. Not just us, but third-party viewers in general, especially when it comes to support. And so what used to be true was that someone on Firestorm or Phoenix would contact Linden support, and regardless of the problem, like say they would say, my region keeps crashing, that Linden support would look at and see that you're on a third-party viewer, and they would say, we can't help you, you're on a third-party viewer. It's you have to contact the third-party viewer support, which is like ridiculous, right? I mean, if the region is crashing, it has nothing to do with the viewer. So now if you contact Linden support, it should be true that they will not bother with that question. They will not even bother looking at what viewer you're using. But if it is a problem with the viewer, and you can reproduce the problem, so if you got a problem on Firestorm, don't contact Linden support. If you got a problem on Firestorm and you can reproduce the problem on the Linden viewer, and we've basically said we can't fix it, you got to go to Linden Lab, it's a Linden problem. So Linden Lab has this, you know, we've not achieved the cooperation that we'd like to achieve with Linden Lab. We're still working on that. And if they see that so Linden Lab has this system. I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about this publicly, but I'm going to. Linden Lab has a system where they can see what viewer you last logged into, not what viewer you're on right now. So what happens is that, let's say we told you, you know, try this and this and this on Firestorm. Okay, it's still not there. Okay, log into the Linden viewer and try it. And so they'll log into the Linden viewer, and the problem still exists there, and then we'll say, okay, contact Linden support. So then they'll go and contact Linden support. Linden support will see, though, that you were last on Firestorm. And they will say, you're on Firestorm, it's a Firestorm problem. And they probably, or at least may not help you. So there's a little workaround for this, and I'm probably going to get blasted on Monday for saying this, but there's a little workaround. Log out of the Linden viewer, and then log back into it again, and then file a ticket with Linden Lab, because that will then show that the last viewer you were on was the Linden viewer. Ta-da! Is that an exploit? Did I just announce an exploit?
Yeah, you coffee potting gleefery.
But you know what they're going to do now is then they'll set it up so that they'll look at the third last logged in viewer or some crazy thing. Thanks for coming, Anastasia. We have actually made good progress, though, with Linden Lab. And a lot of the cases now that happen when many of the situations now, first of all, we don't see it nearly as much as we used to, where Linden Lab refused to help someone because they were on a third-party viewer. Molly, good question. I'll get right to that in a sec. A lot of that has resolved, but it still happens, and quite often when it does happen, it's a junior member of Linden support who aren't fully trained, don't fully understand all the things that are going on and whatnot.
We get along a lot better with Linden Lab these days than at times in the past. They, I think they realize that we really are genuinely interested in helping the Second Life platform as a platform. And We're not out to try to steal their users or corrupt people or anything like that. And so we get along a lot better. They work with us. We work with them. I mean, yeah, we still disagree. There's always going to be that, but it's a lot better than it has.
Well, there's still the whole competition thing. There are some at Linden Lab who still see third-party viewers as competition, and as such, don't want to help their users. But that's gradually diminishing as well. Next release. When is our next release? $1 million question. Well, where's that filter with all the bugs that we currently have? You know what? I don't have it handy. If Whirly was here, Whirly would pop it up in a split second. But we have a lot of issues still. We're still working on the merge issues that came up with our merge with Chewy. Oh my God, what is Chewy? What is Chewy? The last Q&A, I got tons of emails about because we use terms like Chewy. Thank you, Cinder. Oh, you are there. Cinder, you've been so quiet. I thought you were AFK. What is Chewy? We've merged in Chewy. Chewy is... what does Chewy stand for again? Anyway,
Communications Hub User Interface.
Thank you. So now you know what it is. Communications... What is it?
Communications Hub User Interface.
Okay. And in more layman's terms than that, it is Linden Lab's effort to listen to the user feedback on their interface design and make changes to it. And so Chewy is basically Linden Lab's effort to change their interface around to what they felt the users wanted more. Unfortunately, they merged in with that code, which we don't need, by the way, because our interface we think is just fine. Thank you very much. We don't have that many complaints about our interface. But unfortunately, they put in with that chunk of code all kinds of other stuff which we do need. And the only way to pull in that code that we do need, it's a great big ball of wax with all kinds of stuff in there and only a little bit of it that we needed. We've had to take the whole thing and completely screw up our interface to get that code in, and now we're trying to unbreak our interface and all kinds of other problems. But so that's why we're a little bit delayed on our next release. So when is the next release going to happen? That is a great question, which none of us can answer. I'm going to say, completely wild guess, maybe 2 months. Yeah, that's being optimistic.
Personally, I think that the right answer is to borrow the classic line from Ernest and Julio Gallo. We will release no code before it's...
Yeah. Although, in this case, I don't want to wait like 6 months to get a release out. And it may take us 6 to 8 months or a year to get all the bugs out. So at some point, I'm going to put my foot down and say, you know what? We've got to get it out because we've got to get materials out. We've got to get fmodx out. We've got to get a whole bunch of stuff that's in our repo right now. We've got to get this out to you guys. So at some point, I'm going to have to draw a line in the sand and say, it may not pass QA 100%. It may not pass our quality assurance. Our beta testers don't think it's ready yet. But I'm going to have to put my foot down and say it's going to have to go out with some bugs. And these are going to be the bugs. And we'll try to explain the bugs, so that people know what to expect. But we can't sit on the bugs forever. We can't hold back materials and all these other things forever. So at some point, it's going to go out. And I say 2 months because in my mind, 2 months right now is kind of my line in the sand. So we'll see. And I'll probably be flamed by our developers and support.
Well,
in fact, that's almost an insurance.
I can see why you might want to get it out before Thanksgiving. And not the week before Thanksgiving either.
Yeah.
And so if we start pushing into the Thanksgiving season, then we start getting into the holiday season, and then everybody's schedule goes upside down. So, yeah, we do need to go ahead and push out a release. And Linden Lab is very, very much interested in having us release with materials support.
Very.
One thing they saw is that Mesh really didn't take off until Phoenix released with Mesh support, and Materials is proving to be the same way. They really want to see Materials take off from the creator side, and there are creators out there that are beginning to make good use of it. But it won't really, it won't really take off until Firestorm comes out with Materials support in it.
So unfortunately, one of the drawbacks to having such a large user share is that we become the company who holds things back from being adopted in Second Life. So until Firestorm releases Materials is simply not going to get much adoption, and that puts us in a really kind of a pressure situation, because here we are with something that's not stable enough for our for our quality standards. It's not stable enough to release it. But we're also being pressured by Linen Lab, by content creators, and rightfully so, to get Materials out. So, I got to draw a line, and so I'm going to say a month, maybe 2 months. And I'll tell you for sure, support is going to hate me. They're going to hate me, like with a capital HATE, because they're going to have to support all the bugs.
Okay, I want to take this a little step further if I can, Jess. Okay.
Yeah.
There are some other things that we would love to see in the release. There's polish code coming up for server-side appearance that we want in. We're very interested in finding out if the new Vivox code will be advantageous. Okay, things like that we would love to see in release from a support perspective. And then there's the other side of the story. How many of you would like a release more often? How many of you would like to see a new release every...
I'm a fan of the open support, or release early, release often mantra.
Okay, all right. So, a lot of our developers would like to see more frequent releases, and I can understand that. And from my perspective, I'm of two minds about this, as I am about most things in Second Life these days. Okay, from a user perspective, I'd love to see a new release out every month or two. I would love to, as a user. Okay, but as due to my role on support, if there was a new release come out every month, we'd have no support team left. We would literally have next to nobody left doing support.
And that's
So
why
I have to
don't
balance
push
this.
for regular release.
So what I am pushing for, so I have to balance this. Right now, we're averaging like a release every, 4 months, which is way too long. And let's face it, that's just way too long. But part of the reason for that is because we set up goals, which I don't think are unrealistic. But we're a volunteer team. Linen Lab is pushing out releases like 2 or 3 a week right now, or whatever it is. They're on this crazy release schedule right now, and they can do that because they have employees that are paid by the hour to do work every day. They work 8 hours a day. Some of them are 12 hours a day, whatever it is they work, and they're very productive. I don't pay people on this team. Nobody gets paid here, so our devs have real-life jobs and things, and they don't get to work 8 hours a day steady on a project. They can work a couple hours, maybe at most a day. And so while our goals don't seem to be unrealistic, the amount of time that our developers have to do this stuff is unrealistic in that time frame. What I would like to see, though, is... And what I'm going to start pushing for is a release every 2 months instead of every 4 months.
And I'm going to twist her arm and say, no, it's only going to be every 3.
So what's going to happen with that is that I'm still under the same problem that our developers don't have 8 hours a day to put on it. And now I'm going to put a shorter release cycle of 2 months. And so what's going to happen is... our standards of quality are going to have to. I'm going to have to lower the bar a little bit, because we're going to have to in order to get stuff out every 2 months, have stuff going out that's not finished or that has bugs that haven't been completely fixed yet. And there's a bit of a necessity in doing this, a bi-monthly cycle, and that is because Linen Lab is pushing out like 2 or 3 releases a week. We can't keep up with that. So in order to at least try to keep up, we're going to have to, decrease our release cycle to every 2 months, which, by the way, we already aim for. I'm already aiming for a release every 2 months and have been forever. It just seems to work out that it takes 4 months to do what we expect would take 2.
We are at 2 months since the release of Firestorm 441 and 442 now.
Are we? Wow.
Yeah. And quite frankly, I'll push for 3 months simply because the amount of work that we have to do when there is an update.
Yeah, that is what beta is for, but the problem with that, Molly, is that then we'll be perpetually in beta. Like, beta is okay if we can push out something in, let's say we'll push something out in month 1 and we'll call it beta, and then we'll polish that up and release it the second month. But that's actually not what we're doing, because we're trying to polish up everything. and Linen Lab keeps dumping a whole lot of stuff on us, a lot of code. We've got still a whole bunch of code yet to come. Finishing up on materials, there's all kinds of bugs still that have yet to become public for us to merge in. There's server-side appearance is not complete yet. There's a whole lot of code still to come that's going to hit us that we have to merge in with. There's interest list fixes from Linen Lab, which is a whole lot of stuff. There's HTTP network changes that are coming, which is a lot of code to merge with. And we're still working on fixing the bugs we have right now. So anytime we merge anything in, we get more bugs. So, if I say 2 months, we try to release in 2 months, it's still going to have some issues. What I'm hoping for is that we're going to get all this new code, and that's what we're going to release. So we'll be up to date. Once we can get up to date, I think it'll be easier for us to stick to a 2-month release cycle. It's just that right now we're behind because Linen Lab is pushing out so many big projects right now all at the same time.
And it's worth noting that Chewy was a big block for us, but it also was for Linen Lab. They had a lot of projects stacking up, waiting on Chewy to get built and released and debugged and everything else. So, we are in the position Linen Lab was several months back, and we're just having to catch up. Well,
Linen Lab has developers paid by the hour, so they can get through it faster.
Well, but even so, they only have so many developers paid by the hour, so they have projects stack up as well, and a big glob of code gets released, and it releases all the projects stacking up behind it. And so once that happens, then what they say flows downhill.
Yeah, it took Linen Lab, they spent over a year working on Chewy and various other things. So here's the thing. If Linen Lab worked in a transparent way like we do, and our code is visible the second we work on it, and it's the equivalent of us clicking save, and it's visible to you. We're committed it to our repository, and it's visible to you. If you're a coder trying to keep up with us, it's easy to keep up with us because you can pull in every change we make as we make it. Linen Lab doesn't work that way. They're not transparent in the way they work. So what they'll do is they'll work a year of stuff, a year's worth of work they'll do in secret. Nobody can see that code for the whole year. Nobody can see it. And then suddenly, surprise, here it is. And it's this, 3,000 commits of changes and stuff to merge in. That takes a long time for us to try to, dump it into our repository. Well, it is fair in a way, Molly, because, Firestorm is 99% or 90%, probably about 90%, I guess, Linen code. specifically Linen code. We've only really changed. There's so much code in a viewer; it's insane. We've only changed maybe 10% of the code in Firestorm from alleviating from wandering away from the Linen code base. And the more we change, the harder it is for us to merge in their changes, because sometimes they'll make changes to stuff that we've made changes to, and when we try to merge it in, it says no, this doesn't work. I can't merge. You're going to have to do it line for line for line for line to determine what goes in where, and so merging takes a long time. And it is fair because the original reason Linen Lab went open source was because they had hoped that open source developers would take that code, make stuff, and give it to them. And that started happening initially, but Linen Lab turned down a lot of stuff. And so then open source coders says, well, I like this feature. I'm going to make my own viewer then and put it in my viewer. And I'll use it. And I'll give it to my friends. And before you know it, a third-party viewer is born. And so Linen Lab can be a little bit bitter about that. Also, the reason Linen Lab works in secret in their defense, I don't agree with it, but in their defense, they want to control the presentation of a feature. So, for example, they're working on a feature and it's not finished yet. And this, we have to deal with this. We'll be working on something, we'll commit it to a repository, people will see it, self-compilers will see it, and they'll compile it, and they'll complain and complain because this isn't working and that shouldn't be like that and that and this and the other thing. And that mostly is because we're not finished yet. Don't come yelling at us yet. We're not finished. Let us finish it first. And then you can come and give us feedback about it, but it's not finished. So if Linen Lab worked transparently, they would get nothing done because they would be constantly under attack by us, for example, third-party viewer developers, because we're looking at that saying, no, that you shouldn't do it that way. And we don't know. They probably already know that, but we don't know. So we're giving them feedback on something that's not finished. So they work non-transparently so that they can finish it and present it the way they want it presented, rather than have people making assumptions prior to it being complete.
By the way, when I was working on the user interface code for the materials viewer, I was doing it in the Linen Lab code base, and I was expected to keep it hush-hush for that reason. They wanted to have it appear fully baked, so that they didn't have a lot of people trying to jump in the middle of having it developed. And they have their own specifications, their own ideas about how things get done. I was working to a user interface design spec produced by Leonidas Linden, and that's what I was coding towards. They have a guy who does user interfaces and a user interface standard. And so, I had keeping it to myself was a mild annoyance, but I understood the reasons behind it, and I think the rest of the team did it.
A mild annoyance to a tigress, yeah, okay.
So the reason I don't agree with that methodology of Linen Labs in not working transparently is that although it is a burden for us to be working on something and to have people coming and telling us we're doing it wrong when we're not finished, it also is important for us to listen to that feedback before we're finished, because otherwise what happens is that when we do present the finished product and then people complain, we just sort of say, you know what, this is the way we want it. We're not going to go back and change it now. And especially in Linen Labs' case, they have a project manager who's assigned to a couple of developers who are assigned to do this. This is what they have written out in their plans. This is the way it's supposed to be finished. And when it's finished, and then when they release it, they're assigned to the next task. And so by that point, when people come in and complain and say it shouldn't be this way, it shouldn't be that way, it's too late to change it. It's not going to get changed. And how many times has this happened in Second Life where Linen Lab has released something that wasn't quite complete, and they didn't go back and revisit or try to fix it? It's happened more times than I can even count. And that's why I don't believe in that methodology. But to each their own.
So unless you've got some more questions, folks, I think we should wrap this up. We're over
Just
2 hours
rambling now.
in here. Yeah, we're over 2 hours in here.
Ed?
Yep.
When we were talking about the voice earlier, if it doesn't, I was finding out that if it doesn't work on SL or a Firestorm viewer, it could possibly be your firewall.
Yep, that's one of the things on the voice issues wiki page, actually, on our troubleshooting page.
That's what I was finding, because I had that problem and I had to go into my firewall and fix it.
Yep. You know, that's the thing. Voice issues, the most common issue is actually on the user's computers, honestly. That and the servers. But that's just the way it is. So I guess we'll sort of wrap this up.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank you all for asking the questions that you ask. We'll be having another one on the last or the fourth Saturday in September, so the 28th. It'll be in the afternoon, either 3 or 4 p.m. That hasn't been actually decided yet. Yeah, afternoon SLT. Thanks,
Thanks
Molly.
for coming, guys.
Yeah, we think it's important that we communicate both ways here, so that's why we're doing this. Laters.
I love my kitty. This is the first time I saw my kitty since I got it on the anniversary day. Because I haven't logged in since then. That's bad.
I missed it.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
So you didn't get a kitty?
Real life has been kicking me in the butt this last couple of weeks, so I missed it.
Oh. Well, did you get a kitty though? Because the kitty was out for a week.
I missed that because real life's been kicking me in the butt, and I haven't been able to really get into ImWorld that much.
Jess?
I even got rid of all my breedable cats. That's how bad. And I had the big cats. I had cheetahs and jags.
Jess,
Well, I have
you need to fix that gesture.
Which one?
You need to have 2 in there. Peter looks very strange raising her hand.
Wait. Let me find... What?
But, all the new note
Oops.
classes are up there at the classroom, right, Ed?
Yep, they are so.
That gesture should be moddable.
Class notes are always available in the classroom, in our 2 main classrooms, and they're always as up-to-date as we have available.
Yeah, because I'm working with a guy that just switched over from SL Viewer.
Later, Starlight. I'm going to be poofing here in a minute as well.
Yeah,
but
I'll talk to you guys later, and you guys have a good weekend.
You too,
Thank you,
sweet.
you guys too. When's the next meeting?
Next one? September 28th. I'm not sure
28th.
the time yet. 3 or 4 p.m. and the time is still to be determined. That's SLT.
Aw, such a cute kitty. Why is my cat almost as big as me? What the hell?
'Cause you're little.
They're ridiculous sizes.
It's huge.
That was good, Ed.
Because you want the honest answer? Because you're real life size and the cat isn't.
Yeah, see, I have, I did that workshop at the model workshop a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And I kid you not, they put a stool out for me to sit on. And I am not kidding. It was as tall as my head. I kid you not.
Yep.
They were like, here, grab a seat. And it looked okay from where I was standing, but when I walked up to it, it was the height of my avatar. And then they started making fun of my tail, and they were making fun of how small I am, and they're mean. Because I pointed out, one of the reasons I try to have like I call myself a normal sized avatar, which is, I try to make my avatar 5'6", which is my real life height. But 5'6" is like, like the size of a prim. It's ridiculous. So I think I'm like 5'9" or 6 or something. And so they were asking me why I have such a small avatar, and I said, because I'm trying to be realistic. And then they're like, oh, like your tail is realistic?
Well,
I don't worry about that kind of thing. This avatar is 7'2", but tigresses are big kitty.
You could always introduce them to TPW, Jess.
Yeah, see, that's like a realistic size avatar.
Well, there you go, Jess. You look tiny compared to me. I'm like 7'6" or something like that.
But you're not even close to as well. Actually, you're about the same height as some of those models were. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not as tall as I could be. I could still walk the sliders more. This isn't by any means as tall as a female avatar can get. It's as tall as I dare go.
Later, Tanya. I'll be poofing here in a minute too, actually.
Yeah, I gotta log out as well. Real life calls. Thanks for coming, everyone. Pantera, thank you for recording if you still are.
SL and RL to deal with. Well, I think Pantera was actually not even home at the moment.
No, she's not, but she'll hear it on the recording.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm off. Ninja Poofy.
Laters. And yeah, actually my
Bye-bye, everyone.
My real alt is pretty real.